and all of a sudden someone gives you an opportunity. The smart guys were the first ones. Don't go looking for trouble. If I had to give anybody who's listening advice, wow, this is really cool. You need to do your homework and find out. The key is...
All right, here we go.
I've wanted to do it for a while. I've been talking about it. Stuart, thanks for coming here. I have so much to ask you. I want to sort of introduce you as the broker and the landlord in the Denver market, although you do brokerage and properties everywhere. I saw you had a deal in China that you worked on a while ago. So you have quite an amount of experience. Do you want to say a little bit about yourself or introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, hi. Stuart Zall. I'm founder of the Zall Company, which founded back in 2000. I can give you a little bit of my career path. I didn't grow up thinking I would get into real estate, and I don't come from a family of multi-generational real estate family. I got a job, I got my degree at University of Denver in accounting, and my first job was with Arthur Andersen, which is I guess the grandfather of Accenture. They don't exist anymore. I got my CPA, made my mother very happy, and I lasted a year. I got fired for falling asleep on an audit. So my accounting career didn't start off too well. I think because, as all good real estate people, you have to have ADHD. So I probably had undiagnosed ADHD, which does not go well being an accountant. And so I didn't know what I was going to do. So I ended up I ended up working for a guy who said, hey, can you help me do some accounting? I'm building a little strip center, a guy named Steve Gittleman, who's still active in the community here. And so I started doing some accounting for him. I think he quickly realized that wasn't my strong suit. He said, hey, would you mind helping me lease this center? I go, I don't know what to do, but he goes, here, take a phone book and just start calling people. And that's what I did, and dialing for dollars, we called it back in the day before technology existed. Or the new technology, and I started getting some really good results. Started leasing some of his properties. From there, I ended up I got a job working for Lakeside Mall, which is out on 44th and I-70, one of the first malls in the Denver metro area, and that kind of imploded on me, but I leased it up and ultimately got a job with the Taubman Company, and they moved me to San Francisco, and that's really where I learned the art of leasing and merchandising. That was back in 1989, and I was with Taubman for about 7 years, and then, or maybe 5 years, and then I ended up working for a guy named Courtney Lord, and we started building outlet malls all over the country, Mills type malls. So like Colorado Mills, we did one in Arizona, did one in Detroit, and really learned not only the art of merchandising, but also the relationships of these tenants, because you're going to do multiple deals with them around the country. And so then in 2000, our firm was actually bought by Taubman, and I was at a decision point. Do I move to Detroit with Taubman and take a job as a VP? They said I could also move to San Francisco, where I was. I guess I left out that I moved back to Denver in 96. Right. And then, or start my own business. And I said, you know what, 39 years old, 3 kids, why don't I just start my own business? It was a really smart business plan, which was get 1 paying tenant. And I ended up getting 5 paying tenants. And I was so busy in the beginning, I couldn't get my head on straight. And I initially started the firm, I was a hired gun. Right. Basically, you wanted to, you had a lifestyle center, you had an outlet center, you needed some more manpower, you could hire me. And so I did projects from Florida to California, and slowly people I didn't have my business plan said find 1 paying client. It didn't say build a brokerage firm. And over time, people would say, hey, I want to get into real estate. I'm like, great, if you want to hang out with me, I'll teach you everything I know. And slowly we built the company. And so along the way, we bought properties when the opportunities existed. Didn't have quite the capital some other people had, but was able to partner with different groups so that I could, because I really feel if you're going to be successful in brokerage, you need to have some sort of investment in commercial real estate. And it's really difficult because if you're a young broker coming out and you have no money, and you're just trying to make ends meet, and all of a sudden someone gives you an opportunity to put $100,000, $200,000 in a deal, and you're like, where am I going to get that?
Right.
So, and then so the firm grew. We had about 4 or 5 brokers working for me, and we were in the tech center, and my office was on Monaco Street, and I was in a consortium of other like-minded real estate people. So I don't know if you know Alex Topelson and Rick Miller, and so they kind of took me under their wing, and I was on a sublease, right? So I was paying to be in pretty much Class A office space, and in the late in 2000s, 2001, 2002, and then all the way up to 2015, I was paying like $1,500 a month to have 2,500 square feet, and I was like, that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
And then I noticed the rent was starting to, crank up, and I also noticed that everybody who worked for me all lived in the north side of town, so Rhino, the Highlands, Boulder, and I said, maybe it's time, and I wrote this down, which I really encourage people when you set goals, right? I wrote down, find a building in a cool part of town or growing part of town where I can lease half of the space to a tenant, which would help subsidize my rent or provide income for me and space for me. And so through a series of events, we found this building that we're in now, 2946 Larimer. It was a beat up warehouse. I was so scared this was 2016, and I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I figured I'm going to lose it all, but I knew one thing I did have, which was a tenant, me.
Right.
So it really helps when you're a owner occupant, right? And then I went out and leased the other half of the space to a CBD guy who was my tenant for about 7 years, and then now Two Moons moved in a couple of years ago. So it's been great, and the biggest change has been we've been able to have a sign out on the street, and so people can see Zall Commercial. Before I was inside an office building, so if some guy's driving by, I can't tell you how much business we've gotten off of the sign.
That's incredible.
Just yesterday, I got a guy from New York he's got a sushi restaurant in Manhattan, and he wants to open up in Denver, and he says, I've been looking for space. I figured, what the heck, I'll call you guys, and we're probably going to make a deal. So it's amazing. It's sort of changed it so we have a storefront. And it's been a paradigm shift for us.
It's so interesting. I love this area. I've been here a few times. I've been to the restaurants. I didn't realize everything's like right on this block. It feels like, because Barcelona, the restaurant, then Federal.
Federale.
I mean, it's a cool part of town. I was just around the corner. We've had dinner in groups.
In 2016 when I moved in, there was nobody. It was.
How did you know that this?
I didn't know. Sometimes you get lucky, right? So, I'll tell you what. I had a friend from New York who actually lives here now. Stephanie Rubenstein was repping Kit and Ace, which was the founder of Lululemon wanted to do this concept that was focusing for the millennial worker. This was pre-COVID. She goes, find me the roughest, grittiest part of town. That's where he wants to open stores.
Right.
So probably like West End in Chicago, but I was just working for Denver. So I found her this, Larimer Street, and I'm like, it doesn't get any grittier than here.
Right.
So the Denver Central Market wasn't open. Nothing was open. There was Ratio Brewery was here. That was about it. And you walk down the street, it was homeless people. She goes, oh my God, this is Brooklyn. I go, I don't know. I don't have your eyes, Stephanie. I don't know what you see, but you live in Brooklyn. So if you tell me it's Brooklyn, I believe you.
Right.
And so I made it a quest to find a building here. And, we got really lucky. We literally got, I believe, the best block, the best block in Larimer Street, best location in Rhino, but when I bought the building, I wouldn't tell my wife where it was because I'm afraid she would talk me out of it. And I remember when we first moved in here, the people across the alley put a mattress out to throw out, and we were taking bets. How soon would a homeless family move into the mattress? It was about 30 minutes. Wow. I mean,
Did you win the bet?
I know. I thought it was going to be 45.
Wow.
So.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't win the bet. But that's how bad it was. And it's still, it's a city, and it still has its challenges. But it's been great. And everyone's like, "Oh, you're so smart. How did you know?"
Yeah.
I didn't know. I was just lucky. And that's one, if I had to give anybody who's listening advice, don't overanalyze real estate. Sometimes you just have to buy it and pray. Because with real estate, time is your best friend. And so this building, which I paid over $1 million in 2016, in 2000, now the building wasn't built out, but it was more of a warehouse. I saw an appraisal in 2000, the building appraised for $196,000.
Wow.
And today it's probably worth somewhere between $4 and $5 million.
Wow.
So I think sometimes, it's scary. You're putting your life out on the risk when your life at risk when you're buying something. But sometimes, what does it say? I can't think of that line. Something favors the bold. By taking risks, it favors the bold. And that you take a chance. And especially if you're young, if you strike out, guess what? You can still come up to the plate again. So the beauty of America is it affords you, especially if you're young, everyone's like, oh my God, I'm going to lose everything. But guess what? You just graduated college, you have nothing.
Right.
So go.
You can take more risks there. I mean, you hit on so many points that I want to talk on.
Sure.
Mentorship is one, because first, I think that you talk about your mentors a little bit, the values that you learned in your training with Taubman. I think you also are a huge mentor. I mean, in some ways, you've been a mentor for me here in Denver. You've mentored. I've met so many people that you've mentored that have become incredibly successful. What do you look for in people that are the qualities to lead someone to success?
Really good question, Eduardo. I think it starts with your heart, right? I mean, if you have passion for what you're doing, then it's not work, right?
Right.
It's in your, they say in Yiddish, your kishkas, right? If you have a drive, if you're not getting into real estate because, well, I tried everything else and real estate's my, choice, last resort.
Yeah.
I would say that the key is you got to have drive and you have to have passion. You got to be a dreamer. So that's the first step. Mm-hmm. What I like to do, and I feel like probably this younger generation is so lost from this, is everybody texts, everybody's on Instagram, everybody's communicating, mass communication, but nobody is sitting in front of each other. Well, not nobody, but the amount of times people are actually just having coffee and communicating face to face, right, is it's almost non-existent.
Right.
I joke when I first got into the business, if somebody was interested in a space, right, you'd go and say, oh, let me see a picture of the space. So you'd literally run out to the mall or the strip center or whatever, take a picture. In a couple days, you'd get the picture back, right? You'd have to go to like a photo mat, and then it wasn't FedEx, you had to mail it. And so the whole process probably took a week before somebody out of town could see your space, right? And God forbid if you didn't take proper pictures, then you were back to ground one, right? And then, then they would say, okay, I'm not interested, thanks. Right. Today, maybe they would be interested, but you had dialogue and it was a process. And today it's like, oh, I want to see your space. Okay, great. Let me go, email it to you within seconds. While I'm on the phone with you, I can go through it. And you're not really selling though, right? Oh, okay, I don't really like it. Thanks, next. So when you start with networking, right, the first stage of meeting somebody, you're building a relationship. And so if you build a relationship with somebody, which is why we do these breakfasts, and the idea is give anybody an opportunity to meet anybody who can help advance their career. I mean, I like to create the platform. That to me is, and then throw everybody into put all the rats into the box and the mice in the box, see what'll happen.
Right.
And as long as, I always say to the people who work for me, it's like, hey, if you want to be eaten by a shark, the best place is to be in a shark tank, right? Like, in a shark infested waters, a much better chance of getting eaten by a shark there than you're going to get eaten in, say, a pond, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the same, that metaphor of real estate. Like if you want to make deals, that's why I encourage people to go to the shopping center conventions and ULI, go to where people who are going to be able to make decisions are going to be there, right? And then, like, don't just hang around with the same people. Like, go out and talk to everybody everyone you can meet. Try to go meet 50 people, there's going to be somebody there who's going to help you foster your career, make a deal, and then follow through, right? Like, get their cards. Nobody has cards anymore. Maybe it's digital form now, right? But just communicate with them, over communicate with them, drive them crazy. Like, if you find somebody that's interesting, I can't tell you that, the number of deals that we've made over the years, which started with just a cup of coffee or a handshake or bumping into somebody.
Yeah, I mean, I love the idea of, a lot of people network within their own also category. Developers with developers, brokers a lot of times with brokers. I've looked at different finance galas that are capital. It's got nothing. I mean, they raise money for loans, maybe for real estate, but it's interesting because you get more exposure to that stuff. You make links together, and one thing I've heard you say before is you never know where a deal is going to take you or where a deal comes from. That it's just being there. I think is what you're saying. Is
the other, you brought up a good point. I think I learned this when I was doing business in China. Like if you're in a room and everybody speaks English, like you're valuable, but you're not as valuable. Right, because everybody, and I use that metaphor for if I'm in a room with everybody who's real estate brokers, right? Everybody knows how to lease that space. We're all experts, right? Nobody's going to look. I mean, of course they can learn from each other, but maybe their ego won't allow it.
Right.
But if I'm in a room and nobody speaks what I do, then I'm extremely valuable because I can tell them how to lease their space, right? And so when I'm looking to network, I look at life like I hope the PETA group doesn't get me, but the prize is this giant cow, right? Okay, here's this cow, and maybe I want the milk from the cow, and maybe you want the hoof, and maybe somebody else wants the tenderloin. But if we're all going after the cow collaboratively, right? We can bring the cow down, or what do we ever have to do, right? And then maybe you're the guy who brought the cow down, but I just need, well, I guess the milk I wouldn't be able to get now, but I need the hoof, or I need the tongue or whatever. So that's why when we network, we like to work with contractors, we like to work with architects, we like to work with finance people. A lot of times people are like, well, I'm not in real estate. I'm like, yeah, but you probably know somebody who is, right? Much more valuable, right? If I'm pitching somebody who isn't in my space, and, I don't have to compete with my other brokers. And so that's part of my sort of philosophy is like, let's collaborate. It's going to expand. So I can't tell you the number of general contractors, and I'm not looking for anything, some people are like, oh, throw me a bone or whatever. I just, just pay it forward, right? So I'll call up general contractors. I'll be like, hey, here's 10 guys that are coming into town. Maybe you should make contact with them. That's going to help you. Well, that helps them. They're going to help me one way or another. I'm not sitting there with a checklist of, oh, gee, I gave you this one lead. Most of the leads, they've never, and it's kind of funny because one contractor particularly, I've probably given them 5 or 6 restaurants, mostly out of California. They couldn't even spell their name before they came to town. And then you look on their brochure and it's like, oh, we built out, this restaurant, that restaurant. I just kind of laugh. And it's like, yeah, well, who got you there? But they'll also call me and say, hey, we got this new client, needs some representation. So it's just building relationship, building network. So I think when you went back earlier, how would I mentor people? Like you could sit there and tell people, okay, you got to do this, this, and this. But really the best thing is to go out and network and socialize and talk to people, and find out what they're doing and what can you learn from them, or go to events. I'll tell you a good story, actually. So the founder of Shake Shack is a guy named Danny Meyer. Okay, so he opened up literally right after I did. They opened up Shake Shack across the street. So I noticed that the Colorado Restaurant Association, they had an event, and Danny Meyer was speaking. Okay, now Danny Meyer is probably worth $1 billion. He opened up Union Hospitality in New York. I mean, the number of restaurants beyond. Okay, but Shake Shack has been a home run for him, and so it was like $25, you can hear Danny Meyer speak. For $150, you can get a signed autographed book with Danny Meyer. This is Denver. We're not talking New York, right? So how many people do you think are going to cough up $150? 10 people? I paid the $150. I got him to sign the book, and now I consider him a personal contact and I could call him right now and he'd pick up the phone. And immediately he's like, oh, I was on at Ryan. I said, yeah, congratulations on opening up across the street from me. He goes, oh, I was there at 10 in the morning and there's nobody there. We really screwed up. I'm like, Danny, 10 in the morning, nobody wakes up, and Rhino doesn't even start till 11. And so I sent him a whole bunch of information, and the store does very well here. And he was very grateful. And there's been many times when I've needed to connect with him, I don't abuse it, but
Yeah.
I mean, for $150, I have access to Danny Meyer, and those are the things you have to do. That if you're just sitting in the audience, you're not going to get to know them. But also, when somebody's speaking, most of these things are pretty small. You can just go up to the front afterwards
Right.
and introduce yourself. You just never know, what connection you're going to make.
Yeah, I mean, so you talked about a little bit about win-win situations where people, one thing you've said before is that and I love seeing this because I've seen you do it, is you have people that you represent, tenants that you represent, your own tenants, and people that, are your clients. You want them to win. And I've heard you say that after the lease is signed and commission, all that's when you start to work, a lot with them and helping to promote them, because it is win-win. They expand, they're going to call you.
Right.
What do you do after, the lease is signed? Because there's so much to do
So, okay, so you could go down a rabbit hole, right?
Yeah.
You're not like your client's admin staff and solving all problems, but it is important to check in, right? So I always, for myself personally or my brokers, I'm like, look, don't go looking for trouble, because the clients will, you'll become their outsourced staff. But if you can help them, if there's problems, first of all, you got to start with good people, right? So if somebody needs a liquor license, there's a couple liquor attorneys, right? They're really good in town. Sometimes people want to go the cheap route. I'm like, you know what?
Right.
For the extra $2,000, go with this firm, because they're going to get it done.
Yeah.
And you don't have, time is money, right? So I try to guide them to the best of the best that we have personal experience with, right? If somebody asks for a referral, and always try to give them one or two, at least two or three, right? Because you don't want them to come back and say, oh, you told me ABC contractor was the best. Well, I had a problem with them. No, here are three really good contractors. You need to do your homework and find out who you think is the best. But I'm going to tell you all these guys are tried and true, okay?
Right.
And then to help them solve problems when they run into issues. And those are usually just getting the store open. That's where the trouble comes in. After the store's open, there's not I can't solve their problems if they have labor issues or I may know somebody who's good in marketing to help build their brand, but there's not a lot we can do. But always pick up the phone, always be there. I mean, this is even on a lease, Eduardo. So like when you think about like when you're buying a building, it'd be $5-10 million. That's a huge purchase, right?
Yeah.
When you're signing a lease, somebody's making a commitment for maybe $3 million, $4 million, a 10-year lease, right? So you want them to be successful, and if you can help them, it's the best.
Yeah.
I had this. I'll tell you a quick story. So a guy calls me off our sign, and I'm working for a landlord now. So if I work for the landlord, I can't. That's who my fiduciary relationship is, right? So this guy calls me up. He wants to open up this hamburger joint out of LA. I never even heard of it, but he's getting a franchise. I'm like, who's getting a franchise from a place I've never even heard of? Why would you just do it on your own? But franchise, and he wants to be in this building, the Hub down. I'll say the Hub anyway. Okay, down in Rhino, and I'm sitting to myself saying, you're 55 years old. You have no business going into the restaurant business for the first time in your life.
Right.
Like, this is not This isn't gonna bode well, right?
Yeah.
In my one side of me. On the other side, it's like, well, I work for this landlord and I need to make the deal. So I made the deal with him, and you opened up right smack in the middle of COVID. Nobody could have underwritten that, right?
Yeah.
And then it just went from trouble to trouble. But we went in and helped him, even though I didn't have to, right? I didn't rep him or anything, but we went in and helped renegotiate his terms. Still check in with him, see how he's doing. A lot of brokers, a lot of salespeople are like, slam bam and goodbye. Thanks, I made my commission, I'm out of there. We want continuity. We want to be able to do more business with people, and at a minimum, we don't want them to say bad things about us, right? But we always try to be there to help people solve problems. I mean, that's really what we are doing. Is we're problem solvers.
Yeah, I mean, I love the way your brain thinks. You're very creative. Just taking maybe a wider angle point of view, why commercial versus residential? I mean, I love commercial, but I'm just curious what your
Yeah, it's
Why that path?
Well, triple net leases to begin with.
Yeah.
That's, when I was working at Arthur Andersen when I first started, Denver, and this was late 80s, Denver was, the joke was last one to leave Denver, turn off the lights. And a partner of mine and I were out buying up condos from the RTD. I bought a studio condo for $8,000. I mean, it sounds really cheap, but nobody would touch them. That's how bad. You could buy whatever you wanted with your pen, no money down. They just banks want them off the books.
Right.
So at one point I had 50 condos with a partner, and technology hadn't been there yet. So I mean, literally had to go to the bank to make the deposits. I couldn't scan them in, or and it was brain damaging, and it's grueling. And, and so I don't have the patience for residential. It's just a different animal. And so with commercial, I'm really fascinated by the businesses and retail, and it's like night and day. It's just not the path. I'm pretty much sold most of my residential properties and put them into commercial projects, because you're just dealing with a different clientele. Also, if something doesn't work out for a guy who has 50 stores, this wasn't like the best one, it's not going to be the end of the world. If somebody messed up on their house, that's like, on Maslow's hierarchy, level one, right? Like, I just, it's the stump, I think.
In commercial real estate, what trends do you think, tariffs with the internet, I mean, the internet's been affecting it for a while, but what trends are you looking out for?
I think since the beginning of time, probably go back to, the ancient Greeks and Romans and Hebrews, people have been complaining about what's going to happen in the retail market, what's going on. This is, we just got conquered by the Mesopotamians or whatever, how are we going to survive? Humans, as far as I can tell, always need to commerce one way or another, right? So I think that there's going to be AI, there's going to be headwinds that we're going to face, and you just got to pivot. If you just sit back and do nothing, well, then you're going to be dead. But you got to constantly be looking around the corner. So I think COVID was a great test for retailers and restaurants. Like, the smart guys were the first ones to go out and do patio seating. Like, the government said, I mean, we probably don't even remember anymore, even though it was only a couple of years ago, right? Yeah. They came out and said, hey, only 30 people in the restaurant. We need spacing, whatever, and really forced outdoor seating. But the top guys, they were out there doing these patios, or with alcohol, right? They were like, on the to-go program, they had they finally let you take alcohol to go, and so I think going forward, I don't really know exactly. I mean, it seems like apparel business is changing because you can buy so much so easily on Amazon. But when you're on vacation, right? What are you going to do? It's raining today or whatever. I want to go shop. Right. It's a different kind of shopping. So and then they still haven't figured out how to feed you on the internet, right? So even if it's DoorDash picking up the food, it still has to be made somewhere, right? And I think that ghost kitchens was kind of a bust, because you got to see, people want to drive by, see the sign, see the place, experience it. We went to a restaurant, La Loma opened up in the tech center. It was like 2-hour wait. We're like, you know what? I don't wait 2 hours for nothing. It's like, let's just call it up. We called up, and in 45 minutes we got it, picked it up, and brought it home. Still had the same experience. Right. But I wouldn't have known, like, if I didn't see La Loma, right? If it was in some ghost kitchen, well, I wouldn't know that I should be eating there. So, so I feel like, food and entertainment, apparel's still going to be out there, but they're probably smaller stores. Not going to. The department store's in the process of has to reinvent itself. I don't know what that's going to look like exactly, but the model's changed. Right. So,
yeah, I'm loving these like public markets you see everywhere. I drive up and down the coast now all the time, and San Luis Obispo, it's not a huge city. It's got 2 public markets. Right. Santa Barbara has a public market. Here, the Hangar, you have the Edgewater. I mean, I love those types of developments because they just have so much synergy together a lot of the time, if they're done well. And I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a good point, Eduardo.
Like your Colorado Mills, that's an example of it maybe, 15, 20 years ago.
Well, I think when you look at the public market, Denver's like the poster child for like jumping on things way more than other cities.
Right.
So, and we way overdid the public market. So there were some winners and losers. I think the one on Colorado Boulevard, the Junction, have you ever been?
No.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, I think people's answer was, oh, well, let's just build a food hall,
right,
and everyone will show up and it'll be great. I mean, I think you still have to put thought into this. So like the Denver Central Market here that Eden owns, great. The Edgewater one, great. Stanley Market, great. There was one on Lincoln, I forget what it was called, that in Tony's Market, it was that one out of business, right?
Okay.
So there's a proliferation of this stuff, but if it's done right, I think it'll be successful. So.
Okay. Your company's come such a long way. First off, I think it's incredible how you were you were an accountant, and that's a very type of brain, and then you went into such a relationship heavy business. What qualities did you bring from accounting into your?
Yeah, great question. Well, I could at least understand the financial statements and accounts receivables and stuff like that. Very important. Most brokers don't really I understand the mechanics of the business, so that's a really good quality. I understand if we're buying a property, understanding the mortgages. When it comes to I outsource almost everything in this business. So I have an outsourced bookkeeper, I have an outsourced accountant, I have an outsourced graphic artist person. I just know I got to work with my strengths, and I'm not an anal person, so when it comes to running numbers and all that, does not work very well.
I have a personal question for you, but I think it'll apply to the podcast well. But you're the right person to ask, and this is the topic. Hiring people, managing people, it really is a talent. It's almost like there's a reason sometimes why CEOs manage managers, then the manager manage the individual people. How do you develop, what skills do you need to manage people? Because that's something that if you don't do right, your business suffers and you reach a lot of dead ends.
When you talk about managing people, that is a challenge. Now I do believe, you may say the creator, the hand of God, some force, whatever, I do believe there is something out there that helps you.
Right.
And about a year ago, I sort of hit a wall. We were running into a little bit of a cycle where sales were down, and trying to figure out how do I motivate my team? What do I do to make a difference? And I really was eating away at me, because we'd have leasing meetings, we'd sit at this table, and I'd like literally struggle to get people in and be like, okay, what's going on? And we'd go through our listings, and people were like with their cell phone and doing all their things, and they weren't really, and myself included. I'm not, it wasn't very productive. I'm like, I just got to find a coach. I got to find somebody. And my son was skiing up in where was it, in Winter Park? No, in Dillon or Keystone, and he was staying at a place in Frisco. And I went to go see him. It was in the winter. He lives in New York, and so I'm hanging out while he's in the shower or whatever with a bunch of his friends. And I sit down. I talk to this guy Steve Benoit, who has a company called Crafted Consultants, and he's like, oh, where do you live? He's like, Denver. Great, let's go grab a coffee. I didn't know, just to meet him. I didn't know. And so we sat for 2 hours at Rise over here across, which is a co-working, and he tells me his whole strategy. It's also got the entrepreneurial guide, and just the whole process. There's actually science to this, working with people. So I'm like, he wasn't cheap, but I said, you know what, I'm willing to take a shot, because I don't know what else to do. So he's been amazing. We have, and he's really part of our team, and it's helped. So when we have our meetings now, we have them every Monday. They're at noon, if you guys want to show up. No, it's a mandatory meeting. You have to be there.
Right.
I mean, unless you're dead, and you could Zoom in if you have to, but preferred show up.
Right.
No cell phones, and it only lasts an hour. And in that hour, we go through each agent. What did you say you were going to do last week? What did you do this week? It's either red or green.
Right.
Either you got it done, or if sometimes you can't get certain things done, it's not because you were slacking off. So if you didn't get it done, it gets pushed to the next week. And then we also have one-on-one status updates with every agent. We now have KPIs, which are key
performance
indicators. Things I can never get the P.
Metrics, yeah.
And so one of the things that which really works well for us is getting Google reviews, right? So everybody, one of our KPIs is you need to get one positive Google review a month. I've got 10 people here.
Yeah.
If I get 10 a month times 12, that's 120. Well, right now we're probably at 75, 80 positive Google reviews, and it works. Like that stuff we get calls in, which is, we're trying to cast as big of a net as possible, right? So that we're going to get inbound calls, outbound calls. I mean, that people are looking for us, and so that's part of it. Also, now we never had track of how many deals we do in a quarter, just like you did your deals. Okay, we had a good year, I think.
Right.
Now we're actually tracking it, and he's been an integral part to our growth.
That's interesting. I mean, I asked that question. I'm living most of the time in Pebble Beach right now, managing a construction project. So that's kind of one of the things. You manage subs, you manage a contractor.
Right.
How do you, so many people I've talked to, I've interviewed, they talk about the people that work for them, with them. It's a lot of that, their success is due to the people that they hire. I think a lot of it is finding the right people that have the drive, that have the, that want to do better, that don't want it, they don't see it as a dollar. They take quality in their workmanship. And sometimes it's hard to find those people because everybody wants to present like they are that person, but not everybody's that person.
Well, it's interesting. A lot of it's trial and error. We also have an onboarding sheet. We actually have we've created a sheet with Steve on when we're interviewing people, what are the things that we are looking for? And sometimes you can overanalyze it, right? And if I have room, right now we're at capacity. We actually have zero room for any more broker. We'll have to go build up or something, which maybe we do. So I'm willing to take a chance on a lot of people. A lot of people in this industry probably got their start with me in Denver, and it's kind of interesting because when they came on board, I probably didn't have the tools to really help mentor them and coach them the way I should have. And so I probably lost some talented people over the years, just because I wasn't set up. But for me, first of all, again, I said early on in this podcast, right, if you love what you do, it's not work. And so I'm pretty much work 7 days a week. I don't think of it as work, but I'm always available. I always, I think about every broker and how can they be more productive. And it's kind of funny when I think about it. I don't think about it, well, yeah, of course, if they're more productive, I'm going to make more money. That's not really, I want them to be successful. What they're giving me is their time and part of their life, right? Especially at a young age. And so even if they stay with me for a year or 2 or 3, but they learn some skills that help take them to another platform and be successful, then that's really important. You asked me what did I bring over from accounting. And now it sort of sparked a mind. At Arthur Andersen, they used to always say half the time many of their best accountants ended up going to work for the clients. So your Coca-Cola, okay, well, I met so-and-so, my auditor, he's really great, end up bringing him over. And I asked my boss, I said, isn't that kind of tough on you guys? You get all this team, and then he goes, you know what? If we have a friend at Coca-Cola, well, that's great. And so I look at people who leave, that's okay, because I have relationships with them that are only going to help grow their business and my business. So I don't expect somebody to give their life to me, but the time that they're here, I hope that it's the most productive. I'm also always trying to, if I get leads, I want to push them out to the brokers. I may fly at 10,000 feet to make sure that they're handling them okay, or that if they run into any walls.
I want to know, you said you're at capacity. Where do you? I have a past and future question. Where do you want to go from here?
That's a really good question.
And what do you want your legacy to be? It's kind of a 2-for-1, but there are different intentions.
It's funny. I'm having so much fun. I'm really enjoying what's going on. We're working on a couple of projects with the Orlando Magic and also the Sacramento Kings, which is been really cool. I do have two other guys, a guy named Dan Nessen and Neil Berkowitz, that don't work for me but work with me as partners. So we're able to sort of expand our bandwidth. I really like the arena sports area. I feel like that's one area of future growth, because what's happening is a lot of the arenas are moving back into the core CBD, central business district. And so what ends up happening is you have like live music, you have a pro sports team. So between that two, you have like 100, 120, 200 event. It depends on the team, right? But you have a lot of events going on. So when the events go on, people are buying stuff, right? Oh, I'm coming in, I'm going to have dinner before I go see the Nuggets. I'm going to, I want to get a jersey. Oh, look, there's Rag and Bone. I need to get some clothing. I got time, because time is so precious, right? And so, my ability to get more involved in those types of projects, really, really cool. Also trying to, we do a lot of leasing in downtown and Rhino and Cherry Creek. So to the degree that we can continue to dominate those markets, it's really important for me to be able to be one of the leaders of leasing in those areas. And downtown, that's to me is the greatest secret. People are still the sort of ramifications of COVID and crime and the 16th Street Mall development. People just are like, oh, downtown's bad, but downtown's great. And it's had some problems, but you go there on a weekend, it is cranking. And everyone said, oh, let's go to Cherry Creek. There's no space in Cherry Creek. There's so much opportunity downtown that it's kind of neat to be able to see how we can get people back. So when you said about a legacy, I really, and I probably when I started working for Taubman, I felt it, when you lease space, right? When you bring a store in, you're actually changing neighborhoods. You're changing for good or bad, right? So we did the lease for Mendocino Farms in Cherry Creek. It's, I don't know if you know them from California. I mean, they're killing it, right? And everyone's talking, oh, this is great. Before there wasn't a place to get, a quick sandwich and salad and things happen, right? Because it's a commerce point. And so I guess, legacy is that if maybe people won't even know, that, oh, I was the guy who brought, Kava to downtown, or I brought H&M to downtown. I know, and it's not about my own ego, but it's like, hey, if whatever city, whatever playground I work in, if we can make it better, then everybody wins, right? And that's so when I first started as a broker, I was just trying to get some money, right? So anybody had a pulse, I wanted to lease to them. Oh, let's put another bank in. They pay lots of rent, but another bank doesn't change the neighborhood. If you have 5 banks, on one street, you might get more lollipops or something, but you're not going to, that's not going to do anything, right? But all of a sudden, if you have like 5, a coffee shop, a place to eat, a place to shop, all of a sudden now it's like, wow, this is really cool. You've created, a neighborhood. This is you've changed the way people commerce.
And the culture of that neighborhood. That's what it's so interesting. You go to different areas, and the tenants really do give you a feel for it. Even the restaurants, the bars, and
you create a vibe, and that's for a good thing, and that helps just grow for everybody.
I was listening to another interview you did, and you said that in 2010 it was a hard year after the Great Recession or Depression. How did you survive that, and what advice would you give to other people in future recessions?
Well, praying is really good, and if you have your health, don't get so worried about your stock account and your bank account. You don't listen to all the background noise. Like that is bad. You start listening. I don't even watch the news, honestly. If the world were to be blown up today, I probably won't know till all of a sudden, like, whoa, what happened to the ground beneath me? So in 2010, the recession or the meltdown was 08, right? But we didn't really feel it till 10 because a lot of our commissions, it takes like 6 months to a year. So 08 was a great year. 09 was fine. All of a sudden 10, nothing was coming in. Like, whoa. So I read a lot of articles and try to get exposure, in different trade magazines. And a partner of mine that I worked with on, he did like repositioning of malls and merchandising. We wrote an article, and a guy from China called us up and said, "Can you do this for us in China?" And our default answer is yes.
Right.
We can do anything, you know. And then we start scrambling, saying, "Oh God, how are we going to do this?" But it's weird, Eduardo. How so? First, we were like, "Okay, but we don't know how. We got to get the data. The data meaning what are the demographics? What are the psychographics? And you can't get data in China because either the government provides it and it's all bullshit, or it just doesn't exist." So I had a gal, Serena, working for me at the time. She was from Korea, and I'm telling her about this. She goes, I went to the ICSC in Korea last fall or whatever it was, and I met this guy who does data. I'm like, get out of here. Seriously? So she gave me the guy's name, and really weird, he went to the University of Denver as well.
Oh, really? Okay.
And he was living over in Asia. And like, hey, can you do this? And he's like, yeah. So we partnered with them. He got us the data. We did this merchandise report. And then they liked it so much, they said, well, can you lease it for us?
Yeah.
Sure. Why not?
Yeah.
I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
So at the time, the timing was great because in 2011, if you were an American in China, you could do no wrong. You were a god to the Chinese. Today, I don't know. I think probably not the case. So we went over there and we started leasing and, just calling up all these companies. And the project actually was in Xi'an, which is western China, which is where the terracotta warriors.
Oh, that's why I've heard of it. Okay.
Yeah. Other interesting thing was the end of the Silk Road.
Yeah.
So
1,000
years ago in the town square, there was actually a synagogue, which today is a mosque. And there were the Kung Fai, I don't know if I'm saying it right, Jews of China. They were there are Chinese Jews and they're in Xi'an, or some of them were. And anyway, so we started leasing it up and talking to all the brands. So I had the relationships with the brands in the U.S., but the whole different companies. But I knew, hey, I called a guy from Abercrombie, who's your Chinese contact at Brooks Brothers. So they related, and we're getting it leased, and we had the thing fully leased. Meanwhile, I still had projects going on in Denver, so I'm going back and forth between China and Denver. And I found this phone line at the time, which was all on Wi-Fi, but it had like a local Denver phone number. So if somebody called me, it wasn't WhatsApp, it was pre-WhatsApp, but you could call me as long as I had Wi-Fi, and you'd think I was right next to you.
Wow.
And so I'd work in China, and then I'd sleep for about 2 hours, wake up, and then Denver was getting up, and then I'd spend like 4 or 5 hours working on my projects in Denver.
Wow.
And I didn't want any of my clients to know I was in China here because I was afraid they'd fire me, right? And so sometimes I'd be like, "Oh, I want to see your property." I'm like, "Can you see it next Wednesday?" But yeah, sure, no problem, And I pulled it off. And then I thought the interesting telltale sign, on the same day I got a call from the real estate director for Banana Republic in China, begging me to go into, it was called Cosmo Square in Xi'an, okay? And the same day I get a call from the real estate director of Banana Republic US, begging me to get out of a shopping center in California. I'm like, what is going on here? Ultimately, with the project in Xi'an, we had it fully leased, and they decided at the time that housing was so hot that it was more lucrative for them to build homes. So they scrapped the retail project, which didn't matter because we got paid in advance. I wasn't going to chase anybody in China for money. So it's like, you want me to work on it, you need to pay. It's like a gift card. You load the gift card, when the gift card's out, I'm done. So by the time we were out of the project in 2013, the economy here was back, and we went on. But we've worked in projects in Puerto Rico and Hawaii.
Wow.
I haven't done much in Europe, but I would, if you know anybody out there.
Yeah, I do. They're doing residential though, but that's interesting because it's a whole nother market. I mean, just when you say Rhino and Cherry Creek here in Denver, I feel like those are different markets too.
Totally.
Because you have but I feel like you deal with a lot of high end and popular and trendy tenants.
I call it. We don't deal with too much luxe, which would be like Gucci, Hermes. I
Right.
mean, unfortunately, Denver's not a very luxe market, right? I
Right.
mean, the number of lux goods, they're in Cherry Creek, they're in
Yeah.
Aspen,
Yeah.
that's it. But we deal with what I'd call upper moderate brands,
Mm.
emerging brands that are, the Vioris of the world, the I don't know, can't think of them right now, but any of the better brands, the Lululemons, we work with North Face, with Birkenstocks, kind of the trendier. But we also work with. I love working with immigrants, and these guys are fearless, and so some of
Yeah.
our best clients are people that they just want to create a job or business. Maybe they can't get
Right.
hired as a regular job, but they've got, they can do restaurants. They can, they take chances, and sometimes these chances turn into great businesses. I have a client. I don't know if you saw in LA Chic Shoes at all. He's a sneaker store.
Yeah.
I met him when he had one store,
Yeah.
and today he has like 140 stores.
my
So like
God,
kind of like
yeah.
JD Sports or
Yeah.
Foot Locker, and I still consider him one of my best friends. And,
Yeah.
and I knew him when he had one store. I know him when he has 140 stores.
Right.
And still the same, at the core, the same person. But it's kind of cool when you help grow a brand. It's really fun to see that happen too.
I mean, that's something you're part of their story. I mean,
Yeah.
that's something. I think you did that with A&M too, where you had like the first
H&M.
H&M.
Yeah, we did the first one in Colorado,
Uh-huh.
and it was fantastic. And they're still there today. I mean, they've withstood the stress of downtown.
Yeah.
And great brand. We also brought. Unfortunately, they closed during COVID, but Uniqlo. We brought the only Uniqlo to downtown Denver. Forever 21 was another one. Sometimes brand no brands unfortunately can last forever, but hopefully you get 50-year run or more out of them.
Thinking, you were talking about the 16th Street Mall. It's something that, to me, coming from Los Angeles, what is the secret? Because in LA, it's very hard to turn around cities. Maybe it's a bureaucracy. Maybe it's, I don't know what it is in Los Angeles. Here, you have that downtown Denver partnership, and you have developers working hand in hand with political bodies, and what's the secret to turning around kind of a meta question, but
yeah, well, I mean, first of all, when you're comparing LA versus Denver, size is one thing, right?
Yeah.
I think our downtowns are similar, but Los Angeles County is massive, right? It's just maybe too hard. We're a little more nimble. We have a lot of history with downtown. I think our city fathers, whoever they may be, I mean, you start at Union Station, which effectively is the end of the 16th Street Mall, right? I mean, it's off a block, but I consider that.
Right.
And what they did there was such a beautiful project. And actually, I don't know if you know the history of this, but Union Station is what caused Denver to grow. And there were other things too. There was the oil, the gold rush and oil and all this. But in the I think it was in the late 1880s or 1890s, the Union Pacific Railroad station was supposed to go in Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Oh, really?
And when our city fathers found out about it, I don't know what, they bribed them or whatever, but they got it. Literally, the railroad should have gone through I-80 right across. It's flatter ground up north.
Yeah.
They got them to come through Denver, and that's what really caused Denver to grow. And so off of Larimer Street, not over here in Rhino, but more towards downtown, Guard Sports started as a pawn shop. Samsonite Luggage, big multi-billion-dollar company started in Denver on Larimer Street, because what would happen is they'd get 30,000 people a day switching trains, right? Which, when the city only had maybe 100,000 people, 1/3 of the city, the city blew up by 30% bigger city, just because of the train. So, what would you need when when you get off the train? You got an hour or two to kill before you get on the train to LA.
Yeah.
Luggage is one thing, and Samsonite, the Schwader family built these cardboard luggage for $0.25. This was 1900, and they just blew up. And so when you look at the history, and so there's so many players that are great for Denver. You have the historic movement in downtown, preserving Larimer Square, the late Dana Crawford. So that when you come to Denver, it's just not another steel, brick,
Yeah.
glass city. It actually has history tied in with new building. And so we have our struggles, no question about it. I mean, everything from, having the highest minimum wage, proportionally in the country, to permitting times. But there's really good people behind it that believe in Denver. And so, I think you're going to see a lot more in the next couple of years as the mall, now it's completed.
Yeah.
Actually, I think October 4th, they're going to have a big festivity downtown at the mall, Saturday the 4th. So tell all your listeners to come to Denver. Lots of free food.
It's a great area. I lived right there by Union Station.
Okay,
I'd always go jogging through 16th.
Yeah,
so
amazing.
It is a cool, and that's another area that got completely changed. There's the Whole Foods. I lived above the Whole Foods.
Oh yeah.
And it's great because the train is very safe. There's police there all the time.
Yeah, like I said, I think during COVID we maybe dropped our guard and we had gotten hit on a lot of levels, but now it is really the trend is on its way up.
Right.
Right now you're going to see a lot of some of the older office buildings going through conversion to possibly residential if they can do it.
Yeah.
There's still a need for housing. We have even though the apartment rents are soft right now, there's a huge shortage of apartments, and there will continue to be as we grow. So,
and prices too. Those have come up a lot.
Prices have come up. Interest rates have come up. In every generation, there's always going to be something that gets in the way. And even for people who say, "Oh, it's too expensive," I listen all the time. It's like somebody's telling me, "Oh, it's too expensive. I'm going to wait till it comes down."
Yeah,
just buy it now.
Yeah,
it doesn't really matter. We're going to save $25,000. You take $25,000, $50,000, you amortize it over 30 years. It's de minimis.
Yeah. And I heard something once, and it wasn't even real estate related, or investment related, but I think it's not timing the market, it's time in the market. So it's kind of the same principle. Yeah.
So Jordan Perlmutter, who was like sort of a long time developer in malls, and he passed away a few years ago, but he once told me, he goes, in real estate, timing's the half of it. It's like if you time it right, great, but even if you don't, time is it's a long game. It's like in golf, everyone thinks it's a 3-par, but it really isn't. There's been waves where you make a lot of money in a short period of time in real estate, but you really have to have a long view.
Yeah.
And if you have a long view, you'll be successful.
It seems like that's what you do also with your investments. Originally the name of this podcast was a long-term real estate investor, because the idea of thinking long-term takes away a lot of the IRR. You can't really calculate IRR if you have a 100-year business plan.
Right.
And I think that's a lot of the mentality, I feel, when you're investing, when you're leasing. Right. It's always about, I feel, long term. Plus, there's a lot of transactional costs in trying to flip.
Absolutely.
With
commercial. It's definitely. Now, unfortunately, as I said in the beginning of the podcast, I didn't come from a real estate family. Right. So for me, with the long term, I'm planting the seeds. It would have been nice
it's tricky.
If maybe I walked in and there were a few trees in the forest, but
it's tricky too, because when you're starting out, how are you going to buy something without getting financing? And a lot of times, the long term plan is to get rid of all financing, so you don't. Right. So you have more stability and more, the bumps in the road aren't as dramatic.
Right.
All right, so let me ask you these wrap-up questions.
Sure.
I ask everybody these questions.
Sure.
Although I want to ask you a quick one now that I'm looking at the question.
Right.
What was the number one deal that changed your career and that taught you the most or had the most impact on you?
Well,
that's a tough question.
Well, it's not that tough. I would say it wasn't the deal, it was the critical job of going to work for the Taubman Company.
Okay.
That was probably the most transformational change, because they taught me how to lease, not for filling space, but actually creating neighborhoods. And when I was there, I was 27 years old, and I was, shit in my pants, scared. I was going to get fired. I don't know what I'm doing. And I met a guy, a friend of mine who was living in the Bay Area, and he goes, "Oh, let's go meet at this restaurant called Fresh Choice," which was like a soup plantation. And so the line was like freaking out the door, okay? Like beyond.
I love that place.
Okay, all right. So I'm like, what is this place? So some guy's handing out muffins, and I'm like, hey, do you know who the owner is? And he goes, I'm the owner. I'm like, get out of here. I'm just took this job with Taubman. We have 2 malls, one in Pleasanton, one in Concord. You interested? He goes, yeah, hell yeah, I am. Anyway, within 30 days, I made 2 deals. So if you had to say what was like it immediately, I walk in as a new kid on the block, only because my friend said, come meet me at lunch or dinner or whatever it was at this one place. But then I asked the question, right? Like you got to ask the question. Sometimes you could be on the 1 yard line and it's sitting right in front of you. And all you have to do is just ask a question, right? And I met the Martin Culver, and I ended up over the course of my career, I probably made like 5 deals with him.
Wow.
So I guess, is it the most important? I don't know. I'd have to really think about it, but it was extremely important deal. It's a very important deal for me.
Yeah. Well, that's great. So, wrap-up questions. Hardest lessons you ever learned in real estate? You've given me a lot of good lessons.
Right.
So, let me go to the next one. What are your 3 key daily habits that have made you successful? I'm always wondering, like, what time people wake up, if they meditate, they read a certain newspaper, or family time.
Yeah, don't read a newspaper. It's bad for you. Yeah. I get up early. I'm an early person. I'm up at 5.
Wow,
maybe even earlier. And my best time is probably between 5 and 8 is where I'm most productive.
Okay.
But there's a lot of negative noises out there all the time, and I just taught myself how to have a filter. So number one, I would say, don't listen to all the bullshit that's out there. It's just meant to stop you from whatever you're doing, right? So I just try to be positive. I do meditate for about 10 minutes almost every day, which has been awesome. I do a to-do list, which is, with all the CRMs and all the different, technology, like paper and pencil, I still have all that stuff, but just writing it down, and then just being thankful. We should all be thankful that we live in this great country, with all its problems, right? We're so lucky, and every day there's so many opportunities that we can take advantage of. And I sometimes ask myself, well, if I wasn't in real estate and I woke up tomorrow and everything was gone, what would I do? Like, what would I do? And I try to come up with ideas, and there's tons of things you could do. And so I always think about when people get stuck, like, why? There's no reason why. There's so many things that can be done. So I guess, I don't know if I completely answered but I try to wake up with a smile and wake up to take on the world, and usually by the end of the day, sometimes I win and sometimes I don't.
Yeah. So final question. What would you say to a young individual who wanted to start in the real estate business? They didn't really know if they wanted to be a broker, an investor, what segment, but how would they find their path?
When you say, like, what area should they focus
More
on?
like, what advice do you give them?
Right.
You alluded to, or you mentioned networking was good.
Well, that's really important, networking. I would tell them, don't be afraid. Okay. If you have to live at your parents' house, live at your parents' house. If you have to be an Uber driver, be an Uber driver. Right. But, and absorb as much as you possibly can. Like, reading, there's so much information out. You don't even have to subscribe. Like, there's just tons of information. Be an expert. Be an expert in something, so that you end up becoming the go-to guy. They talk about the 10,000 hours or something. Right. Don't try to do everything. Just find one area and be the best at it.
That's great.
That's what I would tell you. But and you got to have the passion. If you're doing it, if you think it's a job, then you're in the wrong business. But I think, and everyone says, oh, it's not a good time. It's always a good time. Matter of fact, when it's bad times are the best time to get into real estate. Yeah, it's true. Well, Stuart, lovely. Thank you so much. Thank you. We could do round 2 another time. I would love to. It's my pleasure. So thanks for joining the podcast, and hopefully we'll grab dinner soon. I hope so. Here we go.